are live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D Show. I am Jordan, and I am joined. The PH is silent. I got harassed a little bit for not saying that. They're like, but wait, what about the PH? So my name is Jordan.
Stay
The
on
PH
brand.
is silent. And I am joined by my co-host, Sir Lucian. Say hello.
Hello, everybody out there. Welcome back on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, and we are just a couple of guys that talk about D&D, and we have lots to talk about because lots of stuff happened this week.
Crazy week.
Yeah, it's crazy week. So I guess the big thing is a new book was announced. Morden Kanan's Tome of Beasts, or Foes. Not Tome of Beasts, because that's the Kobold Press book. But
Right.
Morden Kanan's Tome of Foes, which is going to be a mouthful to say and lots of fun. What do you think this book is, Lucian?
Well, over on Penguin Random House Retail, where they already have the book up as if they're selling it, here's the blurb. Let me read the blurb. And I just want to commend Jordan here. We're leading with the big news of the week, so we're not making you guys wait to the end of the show. So give us props for that. But it says, discover the truth about the great conflicts of the D&D multiverse in the supplement for the world's greatest role-playing game. I'll put a note in here. This is on a website. It looks authentic. It looks like it's a real place you can buy the book or pre-order the book, but it could be fake too. They could be fooling me, but this is what they have. So discover the truth about the great conflicts. The tome is built on the writings of the renowned wizard from the world of Greyhawk. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not even a forgotten. Everything's been Forgotten Realms at this point.
Right.
For 5e of Greyhawk, gathered over a lifetime of research and scholarship in his travels to other realms, other planes of existence. Are they tying into your whole video series? Like they went to Jordan and was like, I watched your video series, so now we're gonna do a book.
So
a mass of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Musings on the Endless Wars of the Multiverse book contains game statistics for dozens of monsters, new demons and devils, several varieties of elves and Duragar, and a vast array of other creatures from throughout the plane of existence.
It's
Crazy.
It sounds kind of like Volo's Guide to Monsters, and it's going to be like half monsters, half like lore. This time, the monsters will be devils and demons, and the lore will be about like the planes of existence that they live on, as opposed to like in Volo's Guide to Monsters, it was like, let's do an in-depth thing on beholders and an in-depth thing on illithids and stuff. So it kind of feels like it's going to be like that. I don't know. How do you... In the history of D&D, they used to just very specifically target players or DMs. So like this book was for a player and this book was for a DM. And you knew that. You knew like, oh, I'm a DM, I'm going to need Monster Manual 2. And it was called Monster Manual 2. Or I'm a player, I'm going to need Player's Handbook 2. And now they've kind of been mixing the two, which I'm wondering if it is a strategy to get more people to DM. Because it's like, oh, well, I bought this tome of, we'll say, Volo's Guide to Monsters. I bought that because it has statistics for playing lizard folk or tritons or things like that. But now I also have all these monsters that I could be like, hey, if I ran a game, I already have the book. And that's what this kind of feels like. Like it's going to have maybe some player stuff, but also monsters, and it'll be a mixed to maybe encourage people to be DMs. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and I think economically it makes sense, right? Because if you put a player book out that's player focused, all of your community will try to buy that book. If I put a DM, there's only one DM for every 4 to 5 to 6 players, so you're only targeting 1/5-ish of your group. So one of your books probably might not sell as good as the other one if it doesn't have stuff that everybody can. So I bet it's a conscious move on their part to make sure every book has an offering or a reason for any fan of the game, any player, DM, whatever, to buy. And I think it just kind of makes sense. And I heard on one of their podcasts, they're releasing less content than they used to.
Yep.
So they've also made a conscious effort to not release as many books as they normally do. But I think they're making sure that everybody would want to buy the books they do release. So.
And that was in the live stream too, which we were talking earlier and you watched, where they said like they're just making less books, but they're making those books more quality is kind of the idea. So it's quality over quantity, which is I totally understand the like 3.5 fourth edition era now, where they were pumping out so many books. And now that I'm entrenched in D&D, I would love to see more books. Like, I want more stuff to digest. But we're kind of getting that with Unearthed Arcana. And it is really cool when they do release something. It's almost like Christmas. Like, it's this big special thing of like, oh, hey, you get, 2 to 3 books a year rather than 5 to 6 books a year. But those books that do come out are really awesome. And it'll take you, 4 or 5 months to digest stuff. Like, I'm still building characters with Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Like, it's not old yet by any means,
Yeah, I played one on Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Shadow Sorcerer. Yeah. Well, and one other tidbit that I got from that stream before we move off it was they said the next UA article should be out, I want to say the second Monday of, I think he meant February.
Yeah.
So probably not this Monday, but the next Monday we should see something either from Jeremy or Mike Merles. They both wrote up an article. They haven't decided which one's going up, but we should see one on the next Monday after this one coming up, and we'll have something to talk about from the new article.
That's related to Tome of Foes.
I bet it is.
Yeah,
I bet.
It's got to be.
So
no, I mean, I'm excited for a new book. I'm excited for monsters. Although now that I own Tome of Beasts, I feel like I have more monsters than I'll ever be able to use. But it's always fun to flip through and read. And obviously, I mean, Forgotten Realms Explained, I love the lore, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see. The Planes of Existence are cool. They were teasing it in the Dragon Talk podcast as well, where they've been talking about Sigil and the Blood War, which is the war between the demons and the devils, and some other like Planes of Existence, like Mechanists. They had a whole thing about Modrons and stuff. So I'm wondering if this is going to propel us into the next storyline adventure, because there were a lot of monsters in Volo's Guide to Monsters that kind of were pertinent in Tomb of Annihilation. And so this could be the like precursor for some planner adventure that they're happening, which I would be excited about if we finally had an adventure that didn't start you at level 1. Like, it would be really cool. And I know Tomb of Annihilation said you could start at level 5 or level 9, but then you don't get to play the whole adventure if you start at those later levels. You get to kind of start like, here's the level 5 area, here's the level 9 area. But I'm like, if it's a planner adventure, like, it would make sense that you start maybe at level 7 or level 5. And if you wanted to start at level 1, hey, we've got these older adventures for you to check out, like this one's going to be different. So high level stuff would be kind of cool to like take your characters from 5 to 15 as opposed to 1 to 10. So
yeah, and just to see 5th edition's take on, because all the information we have on the planes, like all the stuff you've been sharing and stuff, you've gotten from a lot of resources, but it's a lot of the older resources. We haven't quite seen what is the 5th edition take on the planes as much. So this might be the year where we see that. This might be where they expand that out. Do we get into Spelljammer? Do we get into other worlds like the Greyhawk world, Eberron, any of these other, the bringing in more of the multiverse, because they've got the Dark Sun. They've got all kinds of things they can reach into. Are they going to start doing it? Do we feel like Forgotten Realms is tapped at this point and they're starting to move? Who knows what's going to happen here? So I'm hoping for more stuff, because it's more stuff to throw at my players. And it'll be stuff they've never seen, right? Yeah. Is what I'm hoping. That's what I liked about Volos. I was able to throw some stuff at even veteran players. They're like, what? What is that? I'm like, haha, I gotcha. You haven't read this monster manual yet.
Yeah, for sure. So. I don't know. I was reading on Reddit, and they were saying that Wizards of the Coast, WotC has been dropping lots of hints about Eberron. I didn't see it. Like, I was going through kind of like, and on this thing they mentioned Eberron, and here they mentioned Eberron, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that, I don't know if those are hints so much as they just know they own those properties and they could bring them back at some point. But I did a poll on Facebook to see if anybody would be interested in, if I made 2 lore videos a week, which is still a ways off because I'm busy. But if I did, hypothetically, what's another campaign setting you'd like me to talk about? And overwhelmingly, it was Eberron, with Dark Sun being a close second. So I was just like, I guess that's the next popular setting. And
there's
Wizards of the Coast probably knows that that's popular. And if they want to bring it back, it'd be really cool. So
I think it'd be cool. Yeah, my vote would be that. That'd be pretty cool. And it's got the steampunk kind of thing brought into it. It fits in their wheelhouse as far as because of Magic the Gathering and the planes that they have that are very similar to that Eberron kind of style.
Right.
I know everybody wants Warforged to get into the game. They talked about that a little bit on the stream. So it was all, those are all pretty good things. And we've got a whole year of great more releases. They just, at the end of that, they said they have their 4 years already planned out of what they're doing. So it's like, we're getting plenty of content for the next 4 years. They're really going to, give us all the great stuff that we want. So
which also makes me happy because I doubt with the popularity of 5th edition, they're planning on 6th edition, Like I think I was either talking to you or somebody else. I can't remember now. Sorry. But we were talking about, it's this cycle of like every 5 to 6 years, they seem to make a new Dungeons and Dragons, or maybe it's a little longer than that. And we're coming up on like 5 or 6 years, but the train doesn't seem to be slowing down. So I doubt they're going to be like, we could be making more content for this already popular game. So we'll see.
Yeah. 6th edition in what's my prediction? God, we've got to be another 4 years away before they're even thinking about.
Really?
Maybe they're working on it just in case, not to be behind the ball. But as far as when they might want to try to release it, I bet we're still 4 years into working 5th edition because it's just been so good for them.
And Seabiscuit just said in the chat that Merle said that they're not halfway done with 5e. So that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, I bet it might be a 10-year span on that. But you got to be careful too, because sometimes how trends can change in a moment's notice. You can rise, sometimes it's a flash, right? So it happens all of a sudden, and then it goes away all of a sudden too. So I bet they ride that wave as long as they can. And right now 5e's on top. I mean, it's super popular with a lot of gamers right now. So
speaking of 5e, what did you do in games this week? Were you busy?
It might be easier if you ask me what I didn't do. On Wednesday, I didn't play a game.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah. So Storm King's Thunder, we did our Monday and Thursday, 2 groups that we had split. We tried the experiment of splitting 2 groups. Finally decided it's time to bring them back together and get them back to playing. And so they went through the Oracle, which was great. They had a great session. No combat. Just all role play out, talking to an oracle. If you ever do a episode where you're going to have your players talking to an oracle or some massive being that's supposed to give them information, realize it's going to take them longer than you anticipate, because players are always about asking lots of questions. And sometimes in your head, you're thinking, oh, they're going to ask this one question, we'll move on. And it'll be like 2 hours later and they haven't asked that question that you thought, I thought for sure they would ask this question, and they haven't asked it yet. You never can tell what they're going to do. So be
vice versa. I've had that where I'm like, oh, this is going to take, like, this puzzle or this riddle is going to take X amount of time, and they solve it like that. And it's just like,
Yep, be ready. So that was good. We brought Thursday crew. I'm going to jump in my week ahead a little bit. So they finished a small little dungeon delve. They got to fight a chimera today, or on Thursday. So that was kind of cool. Some of them knew what it was. Some didn't know.
That's the multi-headed beast, right?
Yeah,
with the
dragon,
snake tail,
lion, and
goat?
Ram.
Oh, okay.
Or it looked like a ram's head in the picture I was using. But yeah, lion body.
Yeah.
Could fly. Had some cool stuff. Had fire breath from the dragon. Pretty mean. Pretty cool thing. It did take them the whole session to sneak through the cave because they were extra cautious on moving. So we went a long time on that. But both groups are coming back together, and not this Monday, but next Monday, both groups are coming back together, and they will be playing every week from then on instead of every other week. We switched to an every other week to try out that too.
Okay.
My experiment of running every week versus every other week, there's pros and cons to both. So if you're going to do that for your game, every week, from my opinion and what I've been running in my experiment over the last now 2 months, has been every week the players are able to remember what happened in the last session better, and they seem to be a little bit more engaged. The problem is it's hard for everybody to schedule every single week.
Yeah.
So you end up having players miss more. The every other week, I was having a better attendance rate, but they weren't bringing their brains. Like, they weren't remembering anything. They were like, I don't remember what we were doing.
Where were we?
The feel. You lose the momentum. You lose the urgency from whatever session. 2 weeks is too long to keep the hype up of, oh, we're right on the cliffhanger and we could die. Who knows? But by 2 weeks, it's just like, that excitement is kind of over. So kind of a downside. So your attendance is up, but your player engagement is tougher.
Yeah.
Versus every week, player engagement is great, but your attendance can suffer. So you're playing games where you don't have certain players. So pros and cons, whatever you like in your sessions, do it how you like to do it. That's just coming from what I did. So
yeah, and
what else
I know
do we do?
my home game, like if we just don't have somebody, we don't play. So it kind of turns into a bi-weekly game just because people get busy. And like this Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, so we're not going to be able to play because everybody's excited for football. So it happens.
Crazy. All right. Tuesday night went fantastic. I did not die, so that was spectacular.
Oh yeah, what's your new character then? Because this is the Adventure League rules, right?
Yep. So I created a barbarian,
Sweet.
Variant human, so I could get the feat. I went dual wielding, and then we made second level in the session, which was cool. By third, I will be choosing the Storm Herald barbarian out of Xanathar's Guide, so I'm gonna get to play that. It looks like it's a fun character. I got beat up. I'm a meat sponge, like I should be.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really good fight. I don't remember what the creature was. It was a leopard body with 5 or 6 snakes heads all over it, and I forgot what he called it. I was gonna look it up.
I have a mini of it because I bought a bunch of those minis from WizKids. I can't remember the name of it either. I think it's in Volos.
Yeah, we got attacked by that. We beat that, and then we got attacked by tribal goblins.
Kamadan.
In Kamadan. There you go. Who got that for us? Seabiscuit, you win a prize. Some prize of some sort.
Gold star.
Gold star. We'll give you that. So we fought that. I had never seen one. Here it is. DM runs bunch of games. There was something I didn't even know. Right. So that's great. That's what you want. So that was fun. Nobody died. And we got through it. Adventures League. I think that group is having a lot of fun. That's on Anaris' channel. He's doing a really good job DMing that. So that's been good. And then out of the blue, me and Jordan got invited to join the D&D Legends podcast. My schedule worked out. Jordan's super more busy than me. But I went over there on Friday and I whipped up a character on Thursday. I decided to do a Shadow Sorcerer.
Nice.
And yes, of course, I spent like 7 hours agonizing over what cantrips I should take and what spells, because that's all I ever do.
Yeah. That's the fun of making a new character. And then having them die and just be like, well, there was 6 hours gone.
I was trying to do a theme for the character that was, because he's a dark elf, that was a lot about illusion stuff and a lot about when he gets in trouble, he's a sorcerer and he immediately casts darkness around him so that he can't see, and he can see out of it. And then I was like, oh, and I took altered being so that he could then turn himself into what looked like a nightmare with claws. And so it was like this nightmare with claws in this dark cloud that moves around trying to attack people. That was my mental image of that. But
that's awesome.
The game went really well, and they were fun to play with. Those are a great group of people. I think that's going to go up on a Wednesday after they do all the cutting. So I think they record on Fridays and then they put it out on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I'll put a link in the YouTube description. If you're watching this on YouTube, that has a link to the D&D Legends website. And they've got their podcast there, but they also have an interview with me because they wanted to do an interview. And I was like, you want to interview me? Like, okay. I was like, I'm nothing special. But the interview went really well, and that's on their website too. So if you need more Jordan in your life.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, why not? And that was my Friday. Here we are on Saturday. And I just wanted to say for the last thing, I wanted to do on the first shows we have of the month, if I get any subscribers starting now, I'm going to go ahead and contact them after the show. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have you play in one of our one-shots. You can play in one that is broadcast, or you can play in one that's not. It'll be your choice. And I'll bring together some of our players that you've seen in our games, and you'll get to sit down and play some D&D 5e with us. So hopefully, if you miss out this month, no biggie. I'm going to try to do it on the first show of the month to really pay back to all our viewers and fans out there to get that, because we always hear we want to play a game with you. That's always the biggest thing
Right.
anybody hears about, like, oh, I'd love to be able to play with you guys. And so I definitely want to make sure we have that opportunity out there at some point. So, but that was my long-winded week in Dungeons and Dragons. What was Jordan's week in Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh man. So I had my game on Sunday, and this is picking up after Tome of Horrors. So we went back to playing our game where they're like lost in the desert, and they were running around looking in some ruins, like just like a ruined fortress. And they kind of called the bluff of one of my NPCs. I had this NPC that was luring them down there to basically soften them up with monsters, and then she was going to attack them and try to like take their money and eat them and stuff. Because it turns out she's a werejackal. But they called her bluff because they're just like, you're not helping us fight at all. And they ended up calling her out, and she had to transform immediately. So that was a fight that I was like, okay, we're in a room and it's literally 5 players versus one creature. Like the fight is going to be so one-sided that I needed to figure out a way to make it more challenging. So I looked through Tome of Beasts, and I found a really great ooze monster, and I found some clockwork beetles. So I had her at the beginning of the fight pull like a string out of her jacket, and all these beetles just like flew out of her jacket. So now we have this like cloud of beetles that is damaging people if they're standing in it. And then I had her throw this like vial of this potion that she had, and it cracked on the ground, and a sludge monster erupted out of that. So all of a sudden I turned like an easy fight into a pretty hard encounter, which I thought was clever and fun.
Now, was that like last week you had mentioned you were going to do zombies and you wanted them to have to fight through a bunch of zombies, so you were trying to figure out how to handle a big group of zombies? Or did you switch it to then be the beetles and the ooze?
No,
instead?
different
Or are
fight.
you still going to do the Zimba? Oh, you're still going to do the zombie thing.
Still going to do the zombies at some point. I'm trying to figure out a good time to do that, but I get ideas where I'm like, I really want my players to do this, and then I try to like move the story around it, because I'm like, that's really cool. Like, well, I want you guys to fight like 200 zombies. How would that look? So I haven't figured that one out yet. But they mopped her up, and then they kind of went through the rest of the tomb and found some funny stuff. There was a treasure chest that was guarded by 2 robots, and they had they were really silly because these robots, I knew that the robot's CR rating was super weak, but they were just like, well, we could either fight it or we could try and trick them. So they went back and they found some old armor, and they donned themselves in armor, and they came back pretending to be a general. And they're just like, oh, robots, like, we're in charge of you. And I had them roll like a bluff check, and the robots failed. So they were just like, oh, yes, of course, general. So that was really funny as they were. And it was literally that joke of, let's put the halfling on top of the gnome so that it's like one person in a trench coat. And that's what it was, because she had the highest deception, so she wanted to be the person that was deceiving. But she's like, but I want to be like a tall general. So they stacked the halfling on top of a gnome, and it was really funny. And then they fought some zombies, and that was it. And now they're going to leave this ruined area because Camilla, the werejackal, turned out to be evil. So they're going to leave that and probably keep exploring the desert. So I have my like desert random encounter table that I've created, and I'll roll on that, and that's kind of where we'll go. So
yeah, I like that thing that you're talking about too, when the players come up with something creative, even if it's a tiny bit far-fetched. As a DM, I really think letting them do that, because that's the thing they're going to take away from the session, more than they killed 6 of your zombies that you put in front of them.
Right.
More than any of the other pieces, they're going to remember that piece. Braden did a really good job of letting his characters on Friday night come up with some crazy ideas and just like, sure, yeah, let's run with that because it just sounds fun. And so that's a good thing to take away, is let them have those moments, because those are the things that they're going to remember, and that's what's going to bring them back to the table.
Yeah. And I'm forgetting, with published adventures, I feel like I can't improv as much. But with this one, I'm like, I was just making stuff up on the fly. So they found a body, and they're like, well, what is on this body? And I'm like, and then I just thought, I'm like, there's some like military medals. And they're just like, oh. And so that's where they got the idea that this must be a general, and they were going to like wear his outfit and with the medals and stuff to like look like a general, to see if they could bluff the robots. And because I didn't have any of that planned, I could just let it happen. And I was like, oh no, this is a great idea. Like, why don't you go ahead and do that?
And that's another good point, because like I've been experimenting with module play, homebrew play, a mixture of play. But remember that in reality, just because it's a module, you should still be improvising. And I forget that every single time. I try to stick to what it says to do, and I get flustered when they're not doing what the module says their choices are. And I just have to remind myself, just throw stuff in that, just make it up as you go, make it memorable, and just keep the story moving. So that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah. And then I went back to Adventures League at my local gaming store. And this is the first time that I've run into a problem player. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, I'm really lucky to have the players that I have, because if I had this guy at my table, I would have just kicked him out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? He was super combative. He was like, well, I'm a rogue, and he wanted to be like a lawful evil rogue, but a lawful evil is the only alignment that they won't let you be neutral evil or chaotic evil in Adventures League. So he got to he's trying to be chaotic evil because he wants to like be sinister and weird or whatever. But we were just like, hey, the king wants us to go check out this mill that the enemy's going to set on fire. Let's go over there. And he's like, well, I need money to do that. Otherwise I'm not going to do it. And I could see the DM just looking at him being like, really? But the DM like placated him. Like he totally was like, okay, I'll give you like 12 silver and all this other stuff. He's like, okay, well then I'll go. And in my mind, I'm just like, don't reward him. Like if he walks out because he doesn't want to join us, he doesn't join us. Because there were 6 players, I'm like, the 5 of us will just go and you'll lower the difficulty if you have to. Like make sure that guy knows that if he doesn't want to participate, don't let him participate. And then we get there and our whole mission was to find one of these guys and take him back as a prisoner so they could ask him questions. So I was a bard, level 1 bard, and I cast sleep, and I ended up putting one guy asleep. So we like roped him up. And then that same guy, that same idiot was just like, well, I don't want to go exploring because I don't want to get hurt. So I'm just going to guard this guy. And we're trying to explain to him, like, he's asleep. He's roped. He's tied up with rope. He doesn't need to be guarded. Like, he'll be here when we get back. We need you inside in case we get ambushed. But he refused. And so because he refused, his friend refused to come with as well. So now we've split the party. And we're just like, and I was so irritated. I'm just like, fine, whatever. We're going in. I go in. Turns out we're ambushed. My character like falls unconscious because he got stabbed with a knife. And I'm just like, oh, great. The cleric goes down. So now there's 2 people left that are hollering like, come help us, come help us. And eventually they're just like, oh, fine. I guess we'll come in and help. And they did. And they came in and like mopped up the rest. And then shoved a healing potion down the cleric's throat. And the cleric healed me and brought me back. But I was like, man, you're really ruining this experience for me.
Right.
I was really like, be a team player. And it even says that in the Adventures League rules, because I'm sure they've come across this a lot. Like you kind of have to want to be an adventurer. You can't just be this person that does all this other stuff or decides to go and do your own thing because you want attention. And that's kind of what it felt like. So I don't know. I got a heavy dose of that. And afterwards the game, I talked to another guy that was at the table who was kind of shooting me looks. He was just like, what's going on with this table? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I told him, I'm like, thank you for being sane at that insane table. And he just like sighed and rolled his eyes. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to play with that guy anymore.
Yeah. I think we've gotten spoiled. Because you'll hear us talk about it a lot. All the great people we're playing with, the great people I've been meeting over the last 2 years have been really good. But there are still awkward players out there. And I think they have an idea in their head that seems totally legitimate to them, but doesn't. Maybe they do some probably will realize it, but some are probably ignorant. The idea that you're annoying everybody else by doing it, right?
Yeah.
And some do it because they know it, some don't. But it's so weird. You're the DM and you're faced with that. What's funny to me is I could understand if I was at the table being irritated just like you were, but sitting back and hearing the story, I was laughing because I was like, that sounds like a typical adventuring party where they came together, they have no actual bonds or ties.
Right.
And of course it's going to fall apart in a dungeon, right? Because you guys met each other a day ago. You know, and like if you're thinking of it as a real show, as real life, of course these people are not gonna, you know. But you don't get that in your home games because everybody's like, I run in and I jump to try to be the hero and save my friend because my friend is really my friend and my character is also a friend, you know. So it's like,
and I think that was the major thing because when he didn't want to do thing, his real life friend at the table was like, well, I won't do it either. And so I'm just like, no, you guys, like, we're all in this together. Like, you need to focus. And so, it was a learning experience, I think. And so, and I just was reaffirmed how lucky I am with my home players, you know. But again, like Adventures League is a good place to find people that you want to play with. And like the guy that was next to me, who we were both kind of rolling our eyes at what was happening, I'm just like, but he was great. And he was trying to combat the craziness of this other player by being like, no, we're going to go help. Like, you should join us. And so coming away from the table, I definitely would go up to that guy and be like, hey, do you want to play in my game? Because you're sane. So
and it's also the idea of, we all have play styles that we like. And we want to find other players that enjoy that same style, because then we know we'll make a good fit. There are other styles that maybe will irritate us or we won't like. So if we try to play a year-long campaign with two people that have a very different idea of what's fun, somebody's not coming out of that happy, you know, somehow, some way. So I
felt so bad for that DM, because he was just looking at that guy being like, how the heck do I make sure he goes on? Because his job is to make sure everyone's having fun. And it's a little more difficult with Adventures League, I think, because you just don't know the people, you know, and he wants everyone to have a good time. And that guy's not going to have a good time or want to come back if you just said, okay, you walk off and you don't join the rest of us, and the rest of us have a lot of fun and go on a grand adventure, but you don't, which is immediately what I would have done. But yeah. So that's the only...
a mixed bag so far for you for Adventures League.
Yeah, I had a pretty good first night, and then this night I just was at the wrong table. And so next week I'm wondering if I can get there at the right time. Like if I show up way too early or show up way too late, I might be able to get on into one of the other tables that doesn't have that guy. But I'm level 1, and I think the other major table, they're level 5, so it kind of makes sense that I don't play at their table. But But I like my little bard. He's fun. Putting people to sleep, stabbing with a rapier. It's pretty cool.
So now, are you going to have a game on Sunday?
No, because it's the Super Bowl. We might have a game tonight. I put it out to our little Facebook group of my players, and I said, do you guys want to switch to Saturday?
Did you stream it yet? Are we going to see it yet?
I don't have cameras, but probably not. I need to, because I remember when... Matt Colville started streaming. He got this whole like PVC pipe setup of webcams and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, that's kind of what I need, because I keep looking over at my big table. But I've got this huge table, and I don't know, like just getting audio and stuff. I don't know. No.
Yeah,
so short answer, no. But
yeah, he's a good example of, he's not going to wait until he's perfected it. He's going to try stuff, even though it's not perfect yet, so he can get it to be perfect. You know what I mean? So it's that idea that we are always telling new DMs and GMs that don't feel like you have to do a year-long prep before you can run your game. Get into it, start running it. You can make it better as you go, and you can improve the things as you learn, whether it's better music for people or the best snacks if they're at your table, or learning more about Roll20 than you knew before. But don't let that be a hindrance to you starting your game. And that's kind of what Colville's like, I'm going to stream my games, but I'm going to put this thing up now. It's not going to be great. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
But we need to work out what's going on, and then he's going to get it better and better. I can't wait. This year he's supposed to be streaming his game pretty soon, so
cool.
I can't wait to see it. Do you want to do some questions out of the stream before we cut out?
Yeah, we can do some questions. We'll see if I have any answers.
First one, the first one I saw was from, I'm going to say UseBad9, asked, any ideas for my players to create some more background for their characters? They're brand new in D&D, which is awesome. New players are always great, and they are now level 3. They know next to nothing about Forgotten Realms lore.
That's probably a good thing.
I would say is have them watch Jordan's video. But what would Jordan say about helping their players get some more background?
Are we talking about the actual background that you're taking, or... like, do you want to make new backgrounds? But they're level 3, so I guess they've already taken their background. But
they can't change it. I'm thinking he's talking about so they have more knowledge about the world they're playing without just doing like a lore dump during the session.
Right. I think emails could work. Like asking them at the table what kind of direction they want to go, and then if you have the Forgotten Realms knowledge, or if you're setting it in the Forgotten Realms, you could definitely do some email lore dump, like send it out to them and just be like, here's some information on the Harpers or the Emerald Enclave, the various organizations, and maybe you could be part of one of those. Otherwise, yeah, have them watch some of my videos. But honestly, I guess what I would most recommend is have them create it. Like ask them, like, do you want to be part of an Assassin's Guild? Like, do you want to be part of a spy network? Do you want to be part of a wizard's like enclave or something? What would that be called? Where do you think that would work? You know, like players can be creative. And you start asking them questions and they have to have answers to it. And so they'll come back with like, I don't know, and then throw the Forgotten Realms out the window and just use what they're building, because it's going to be a lot more meaningful to them if they come up with it, I think.
Yeah. The two things, my real answer would be the two things that I would try to do in any world where if I build it, it's a homebrew and I have to express to them what this world is and they have characters that live in it, how they know that stuff. Flashback scenes that are RP scenes only with individual characters at the beginning of sessions or such, where you can talk about something that happened in the past, but make sure it references something you want them to know about the world, right? So we flash back to this time you fought this guild like you talked about that is in the city, and now they know about the city in this guild and they have a little bit of flavor about what's going on because of the flashback. And those can take 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning of your sessions. I called them flashbacks, or I called them campfire stories, because there's always that time where your players are sitting around camp.
That's great.
And they would be talking, their characters would be talking. So spend 10 or 15 minutes and do one of those conversations. They can make stuff up, you can make stuff up, and then it fits into the lore. And then number 2, the thing that I just did recently that I think has helped my game a lot, that, again, Matt Colville put out, he, in between sessions, whether it's through email or on Discord or however you're doing it, write little literature pieces from the bad guy's perspective or an NPC's perspective as, like, the NPCs are leaving. I'll give you an example. My players were at a camp. They were going to go exploring out in the wilderness. They talked in camp. They did that and they left. I wrote up a little thing of the 2 people that they talked to, is the main chef at the tent and the main leader of the camp. And I had this little scene where those 2 came up and talked to each other, and they said, so what do you think of these new guys? And the one guy's like, I don't know. One of them seems pretty shifty. And the other like, no, they seem like pretty good people. And then use a little story element to add more to what this camp is about and a little bit about those NPCs. And then you can use that. I did a bad guy thing too, where the main bad guy said, who are these people interfering in my lands? I want them found. Send out the scouts. You don't have to give them details, but now they have this essence of, wait a minute, there's a big nemesis out there. They know about us and we don't know about them. And it builds that lore as they go without just saying, all right, guys, I open up the encyclopedia. You are now on the continent of Zerifria, and there are 7 countries here, and there's 15 cities that are main, and there's 1 port. You know, you don't want to do a lore dump like that. You want to make it more of a cinematic moment, or I forget the word that Colville had used. It was a literature term to say, don't tell me what's happening, but it's the old don't tell me, show me kind of thing that everybody always talks about. But it's easy to say that and not know how to do that. So that's our long-winded answer to how to help your players. I think. Do we have anything else in there?
I was just thinking of a good question to ask is, what is the childhood moment that defined why your character became an adventurer? Because like D&D player characters are different from NPCs, and there's a reason they're different from NPCs. So asking like, well, when I was 10, I saw a magic show and that's why I'm a wizard. Or when I was 15, my parents were brutally murdered and now I'm a rogue looking for their killers. Like, and a lot of times you'll ask players that and they're just going to turn to you blank-faced and say, I don't know. But you say, you just encourage them and you're like, hey, like you can figure it out. So
yeah, give me a name. What they look like when they did it, because the more buy-in they have in it, the more they're going to pay attention to the
and they're
going to
remember.
Yeah, we did it in McLancy Waddle a little bit when we talked about the interaction between your cleric and her goddess, right? To try to bring that feel out, we had a lot of things where Jordan's character would, while during prayers, would receive visions. So that starts to let the other characters get an idea about this god that he is worshiping. And then we had another scene where it was about who was the mentor of Yuretsi, the street urchin, you know, before she became an adventurer. And so all that kind of stuff builds into them getting an idea of what's going on. And Velan, which none of them knew about Velan in the southern part of Forgotten Realms, except that maybe they saw the name on the map. But so that was a good question. So I think that's the ones I saw in there. Everybody's having a good conversation in there. Other members are giving you pointers too, and I think Uzbad's seeing a bunch of those. So hopefully he's got a good answer to go with. Thanks for running games for new people. That's the best thing in the world to do, and keep it up. You know?
And I just saw Karza37 was like, thoughts on the new book planned for May. That was the beginning of our show. We talked all about that book.
Rewind.
So check the VOD and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we're excited. That's
very
the,
excited.
The short.
Very
that's
excited.
the short. All right.
Yeah.
You want to take us out?
Sure. I want to say thank you guys. I hope you guys are all having a great time. Thank you so much for coming out and watching us today. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you again for watching. Just lots of thanks all around. This is just always fun. Like, I don't know, Sir Lucian and I get on about 30 minutes before the show and we end up chatting too much, saying, oh, we need to save this for the show. We need to save this for the show. So we have a lot of fun making this, and we just want to say thanks, you guys, for coming out. So.
Yeah, we enjoy all your feedback. There's been lots of good comments on the videos that Jordan puts up on YouTube. If you happen to miss the live stream, keep those coming. Come during the live stream. Give us stuff to work on. And, next Saturday.
Yeah, what's going on next Saturday?
Yeah, we have to figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
Because you're not going to be here.
Keep an eye on Twitter.
So,
something's going to happen.
Yeah, keep an eye on Twitter.
Something will happen.
We'll either change the date of recording or maybe we'll get a guest host or something. So, I don't know.
Keep an eye on Twitter. We'll definitely post it out for you guys. So.
Do you have any announcements for the week or no? All right.
No. Okay. I mean, a lot's happening. You know, Monday games, Thursday games, Tuesday games.
If you want to watch those, check out Sir Lucian's channel, I guess.
Twitch.
So
cool. You're here. You're probably listening now. But on YouTube, all you YouTube people, come to twitch.tv/Sir Lucian, one word, LUCIEN. For all of the games that I'm streaming or playing in and having fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get some more Jordan in some of them. We got some. Look for McLancy Waddle if you want to see Jordan as a player. It's pretty good. He does a good job.
It's lots of fun.
So, all right, guys.
Well, thanks again, guys. We will see you in the future next Saturday for the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Woof, woof.